Hey guys, it's Caden. Welcome to another Autism Digest interview, where today we have someone who I'm really excited to interview. He is the first autistic individual to compete on The Voice. He competed on season 17 on John Legend's team and made it all the way to the semifinals. He's a folk singer-songwriter and a talented banjo player. Let's give it up for Will Breman. Thanks for coming on, Will.
That's great. Thank you for having me, Caden.
All right, my first question for you is, for those of you who don't know the story of Will Breman, what's your story?
Yeah. It, I've been doing music my entire life. My mom taught me how to sing when I was very little. It had always been really a hobby for a long time, and I didn't really pursue it full time until after I got out of college. I had grown up doing it, but I thought I was going to go to law school. That was the way to impress the parents, right? But I learned very quickly that wasn't for me. So when I left law school, I noticed I was making a lot of good money performing and doing corporate music and doing stuff in around my hometown in Santa Barbara. And I one of those gigs, and it'll get to the point. One of those gigs was actually as a section leader for a choir in town, the Santa Barbara Choral Society. So that's just singing classical music and choral music in some of the really nice theaters here. But one day they sent me an email that fell into spam, so I had to look for it, right? And as I was looking, I noticed another email saying, "Hey, The Voice is holding these open mics in LA. Do you want to be a part?" And I'm like, how many thousand people saw this and are filling it out? So I gave them the bare minimum and I forgot about it, right? And this is back in 2018. So 6 months later, I get a phone call saying, "Hey, we're representatives of The Voice." And I'm like, "No, you're not. No, you're not." Because who would have thought that was at all real? I completely forgot about the open mic, but it ultimately led to me doing the show. So in 2019, I was on The Voice, season 17. I was very happy to work with John Legend for a lot of that, and I worked with a lot of other cool people like Usher, Kelly Clarkson, Taylor Swift, Blake Shelton, and many others. It really is the reason why I can do this full time now. But since then, I've also opened for Willie Nelson. I've opened for Neil Young. I've opened for Joe Walsh and Stephen Stills. I've put out a lot more projects, more in the folk game, because that's what I did for a bit. And yeah, that's kind of my story. Just doing my thing out here in the Central Coast as Will Breman, and yep.
Oh, one.
1 second. I know this is a live stream. Any banjo players in the comments? Leave like a little banjo emoji in the comments. I don't know. We're just trying to kill time.
Sorry about that. My dad was calling me. But that's amazing that you've been able to open for so many legends, many of which are some of my favorites. For it's like I love Neil, I love Willie and Joe and all of them.
Yeah, no, it was a great experience.
My next question for you is, how do you think autism has helped you in your songwriting and music?
That's a great question. I think for me, it's just become such a limited interest, with how it affects me and how I feel that it affects me. Um, it's very easy to focus on the process because I don't really have a lot of other things to focus on. And so when I have that kind of state of flow, and that's what I think really causes that, with the combination of that being a limited interest. I'm able to focus on stuff and really able to hone my arranging skills and my songwriting skills. A lot of it is just listening to good music and getting inspired by it. But I think that's the main way.
Yeah, I'm the same way with music personally. I've loved it since I was 11 years old, as I was telling you before the show. Oh, my next question for you is what does it feel like to be the first autistic individual to compete on such a big show as The Voice? And how do you think it'll inspire other autistic musicians in a similar way?
Oh man. I'll answer the second question first, in the sense that I think the biggest thing that the autistic community needs, and this is just my opinion. I don't know if I want to speak for the autistic community at large, right? But I think the biggest thing that we need, especially in this day and age, is just representation and being out there, visibility. So I think it was similar. Like I got on that show the same time, around the same time Cody Lee was popping off on America's Got Talent. A little before Aiden Boyer went on American Idol, one of my dear friends. And it was a good run of people all over the spectrum just being there for people to see. And I hope just doing that, like when I got on the show, one of the things that I told myself is I just want to be the cool dude, the superhero that I saw on TV when I was a kid, you know? And I hope that that experience brought that for somebody. I've gotten the chance over the years to meet a lot of families who have seen me on the show and who have kids or family members on the spectrum. And they all every time, just hearing people say how inspired they felt, that's heartwarming. It's humbling. And it's humbling because to answer your first question, I didn't know what I was doing, you know in reality, that was the moment that I really came out to a lot of friends, a lot of family, and the general public as being on the spectrum. And I didn't even know what the terminology was. For the longest time, I what I understood um what I understood of what I had was Asperger's syndrome, and I didn't know that that was no longer the term. um, but yeah, if anything, if there is one regret, I wish I had more help during that, because um, when up to that point, I had no real knowledge of the community. I had not great knowledge of where on the spectrum that I was at. And so I was learning, frankly, in real time. I was learning in real time. I was dealing with some interesting takes, on my performances. I think with anybody else, they could get commented on their technique, on their performance ability. For me, there was, I think, an extra roadblock, because on one end of things, people are like, wow, it's amazing that he could do that with that disability. And it just felt like such a lack of understanding of what it is, because, it's similar to what we deal with, especially within the last few weeks, like, I think a lot of people who are neurotypical limit it really to uh, people who do not function as well, who really can't use the bathroom, who really can't pay taxes, which is, there's a lot of reasons, and I won't focus on that too much, just for the sake of it and focusing on the music. But it was kind of interesting to be typecast as that, because that's just not something that I am. I'm a functioning musician. I work full time. I have a master's degree. So it was interesting to get put into that kind of bubble. It was interesting to see how my character on the show was doctored to make it kind of seem that way. It felt like I was getting a lot of the stuff that went to air was a lot of awkward jokes, or me kind of staring off into space. So there was an element to it where I felt like if I knew better and if I had the help, that it would have been easier to help kind of help everybody else who's working on the show get a more accurate image of who I am and what the spectrum on my side of things looks like. But that also being said, you know, despite not having help, despite not really knowing what to do and having to learn the vocabulary, having to do all that in real time, oh man, it's completely changed my life. You know, it's cool to get to meet a lot of other very inspiring autistic individuals. It's been cool to, at least for the moment that I had it, kind of carry the flag. And it's cool to see like all the networking and collaborating opportunities it's led to, you know?
Yeah, I like the way you put that. Learning in real time. I'm the same way. I was diagnosed since 2 years old, and for the longest time, in fact, and not until I turned 18 years old did I learn the proper terminology and have the understanding of autism that I do now. And I think that has helped me in my advocacy, in what I do academically and doing stuff like this. So learning in real time is a really nice way to put it, Will. My last question for you is, what's your advice to anyone, neurodivergent or not, that wants to get into the music industry?
Well, I mean, it's an ever evolving, ever changing community, and there are so many resources online and on social media that can tell you all the logistics of how to, I don't know, get your song synced on a video game, or how to find the right booking agent. I don't really have those answers. But the best advice that I could give, just kind of on the outset, is really just to trust yourself. Art, I think, in this day and age, continues to get more and more commodified. We see this with the rise of AI. We see this with how TikTok and social media algorithms have changed to be less about social media and more about interest media. Like, I don't know if you listen to much Taylor Swift, but I haven't heard the record. I don't know a lot of friends of mine who've heard the new record. I'm sure it's very good, but she has a cult following, and it's largely what's the word? And it's largely in its own little bubble, you know. And that's kind of where it is going. So the thing with that, is because it's constantly changing, because it's constantly doing these shifts, you as a musician don't have to take yourself so seriously and put yourself on a pedestal that you don't really need to be on, don't overthink it. Just put out art.
That's really great advice. Guys, that's going to do it for this interview. Guys, thank you so much to Will for an extremely powerful interview. If you guys want to see more inspiring interviews, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Autism Digest. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Awesome. Thank you.